Thanks for joining us for This Week in Odyssey, where subscribers to Odyssey, the print MIS from Marketing Ideas for Printers, can discover what's new in Odyssey and learn about the best practices to use Odyssey to its fullest. Let's get started.
Well, welcome to Marketing Ideas for Printers This Week in Odyssey webinar. And for those that are keeping track, this is episode number 18. Today and every other Wednesday, we'll be presenting these webinars. And just please note the webinar occurs at 9 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 p.m. Eastern Time. This bi-weekly webinar is going to focus on release notes. If there happens to be any noteworthy bug fixes, there could be a few tips and tricks here and there, anything and everything that you would like to know about Odyssey. And on today's episode, I'm actually going to be going over some tips and tricks that you may not have known about, which will hopefully help maximize your effectiveness when you are using Odyssey. So to start with, I know I've gone over this before. There may be folks that haven't seen it, they're newer to it, or they just couldn't remember what was under our help menu. So in Odyssey, in the upper right, there's a help menu. And when you select that, you can do one of three things. You can view our Odyssey documentation. If I was to open that up, that just takes you to a link where you can view the documentation on the website, or over here, there's a little Adobe sign or a printer. If you want to print this off for any reason, you could certainly do that. The second option under the help menu is Odyssey release notes. That is actually a link to our ongoing release notes when we have some updates, if some new features, anything of that nature we put in our release notes. And the third link takes you to the control center of your website where you can open a support ticket if you have a question or wondering whatever it may be. So the help menu is very valuable. I see more and more folks are probably using as we're seeing the help tickets come in. So please continue to utilize the help menu however you see fit. There is one update or fix that I wanted to highlight that has been made, and that's found in marketing. If you haven't been in marketing before, you haven't been in there in a while, my icon for marketing is up here in the upper right. You can move the icons that are on your Odyssey dashboard. If you hover over, I get the 4 crosshairs. You can click and drag an icon and drop it wherever you'd like. My marketing icon just happens to be up top on the top toolbar. But if I go into marketing, what I was going to mention is there was inconsistency in viewing the scheduled time when a campaign would start. So here I'm just going to go through. This is where you would indicate the date and the time when you would like your marketing campaign to start, and you can click save. Prior, it looks like there might have been a refresh required to the page, but now you can enter in your start date and time without having to refresh the page and continue on setting up your marketing campaign. One other update, I know I mentioned before, this is pretty cool, but in the upper left of your Odyssey, there's what we consider a universal navigation bar or nav bar. From Odyssey, you can go to your website's control center. So I just open it up in a new tab, but you could select it from here, and I'm taken to workflow of your website. If you are subscribed to direct mail, you are taken to the info center for your account where you might have some direct mail products you're subscribed to. Same as social marketing. If you select the social marketing icon, you are taken to the social marketing subscription tab of your info center. While you are either in your info center or you are in the control center, those icons in the nav bar are also available. You can go to Odyssey, you can go to your direct mail, you can go to your social marketing. So this is universal in the fact that it's found in both Odyssey and in the control center of your website. And if you happen to be in the info center for your account, this is also found in the upper left, and you can route to any of these other locations. So that has been very helpful and effective. I've heard a couple comments from folks that they really appreciate that. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for all the different locations you might need to access if you have subscriptions to those different things. So I just thought I would mention the universal nav bar again, as it is a newer update, but a much needed update that has finally been released. So With that, I did mention tips and tricks earlier. That is something I may not have gone over or done as much with, but on this episode, we're going to go over some of those. So I have compiled a list of about 6 tips/tricks in Odyssey that you may not have known about prior, or you want to know how something can be used in Odyssey. So let's dive into these. And I have about 6, depending on time. I might cut one out, but I think I can go through them all. I just don't want to take too long because we try to limit this to 30 minutes or less. But if I happen to go over, you could always fast forward as well. The first tip or trick is called or is referenced as tagging. Tagging is found in your list of resources. So this is my list of resources. Without anything being searched or filtered, you have probably a longer list, but all your resources are on this main page, whether it's a press, it's paper, it's bindery, it's whatever it might be. All your resources are lumped into this main page. However, you may have what's called tags, and as you can see, there's a column here called tags. What is it? Where do I add it? What can be done about it? If I go into, say, just my first resource, number 10 window. Most likely the word envelope comes to your mind, and you are correct, this is an envelope resource. Tags for searching. I have entered the tag envelope. What this does is helps you search here at the main resource level, maybe for anything that has to do with an envelope. So if I select the envelope tag, any resource that has the tag envelope shows up. I happen to have just one envelope paper resource, but I also have a digital press that can run envelopes, or maybe we allow it to run envelopes. So I might have added the tag envelopes. Another tag that could be used as an example could be called business cards. How this can be helpful is maybe out of, let's say you have 100 papers of all your resources, and you only have a few that you would actually use when you run business cards through. Well, if I go into some of these papers that I would use for a business card, I would tag it as business card. This will come more into play when you say hook up a business card order form to your website, and I will show more about that later. You do not have to go through and delete or disconnect all the papers that don't have to do with business cards. Instead, we're going to map to only the papers that are tagged as business card. So tagging allows you to do searches and narrow down things here on the left side. It allows you to narrow down what you want to show on a particular business card. So we really encourage you, when you add new resources, or maybe you're going through and updating existing resources, to just do a quick glance at your tags to see if, well, maybe this paper is used for another order form, or maybe it can be used for something else. It just allows you to do a better search and narrow down on whatever it is that you want to narrow down. Bindery. I could have, as you can see, I have shrink wrap, I have folding, I have laminate, I have all these different things considered bindery. So you could put a tag for bindery for those things. And then when you select the bindery tag, only those resources that have the tag bindery will show up. You could have multiple tags for resource. If I go back to business card, I had one that said +1. So it is a paper. It is also used for business cards. But if I select that paper and look at the +1, I see it also has the tag of poster. So maybe this paper, I told Odyssey, oh, I want to use it for posters as well. There's no limit on the number of tags in a resource. It's just to help you for searching, and later on down the road when you want to connect order forms to your website, it can allow you to become more specific on the types of resources or types of paper, or whatever it is that you want to allow on your order form. Instead of bringing in hundreds of papers, you might want to bring in just a few. So tagging is found within each resource. You go into the resource, you can delete a tag with the little X. You can add from save tags that you might have added in the past, or you can add a new tag. And again, this one I might call flyer, and select or press enter, and that tag is added right away, and then you can select save. So back to this main resource page, all the different tags here are on the left. Feel free to play around. You can always delete a tag in your resource if you don't want to use it for a specific resource. It's not going to really hurt anything, but if you haven't thought about tags or haven't used them, we also have a little write-up in the Odyssey user guide that talks about tags, why they can be used, and the helpfulness of them. So feel free to take a look at whenever you have the time on how tagging could be beneficial for you, either with searching, when you're setting up order forms, whatever your situation might be. The next tip or trick that I actually don't use as much, but perhaps you folks have not seen before, is in the wizard within an estimate. So I'm going to go back to the main dashboard of Odyssey. And I'm going to act like I'm going to add a new estimate. You could also do this with an existing estimate, but I just like to do things fresh to give you a fresh perspective. So in the upper left is where you can select Add Estimate. And the next screen that comes up should allow me to, on the left, select that I want to use the wizard. I'm going to go back to the main dashboard of Odyssey here. Sometimes I get the 5 dots, and a lot of times that's maybe more specific with me here, working remote, that it could have something to do with it. So let me go back into estimates, and I'm going to select Add Estimate again. And now that we're here, I'm not going to fill anything else out on this page. If you were to create an actual estimate, of course, you'd probably want to, fill in, if you have a sales rep, a customer rep, who's the customer and things like that. But just for simplicity for today, I'm just going to show you what I wanted to mention in the component wizard. So the component wizard is where you go through and set up your paper and your ink. So we're creating a new component. We're going to use the wizard. I'm just going to do something simple, a sheet of paper. We're going to call it, it's a book, text, or offset type of paper. We're going to use my 100-pound gloss cover, and we're just going to use white, and I'm going to go to next step. Finish size, we'll just say 5 by 7. If you have bleeds, you could certainly add those in, and we're going to go to next step. I'm going to say this is a full color or two-sided full color, whatever it's going to be, and I'm going to actually say this is a flyer. You do not have to rename your components, but perhaps you have multiple components, you need to know what each one is. It's a good idea to rename them. And I'm just going to say a quantity of 500. I'm going to select the green Load Output Devices button. If you want to show more than the initial 5 presses that come up, you can show 10, 25, or 100. I'll just select 10 just so you can see the other presses that I have. What Odyssey does is usually place the most cost-effective press at the top for you to choose or view. What I have not done as much, and maybe you folks haven't seen either, as you can see, there's a little blue eye information button to the far right of each press under the cost column. If you select that blue eye button for any of your presses, Odyssey will show you what's the paper cost, or I'm sorry, yep, what's the paper cost? How much is that paper in pounds? The press time and things that are affiliated with that specific press. You can actually see this before you even complete the wizard and go to the estimate. Maybe this will help you eliminate going through with the rest of the estimate, or maybe you want to go back and switch out to a different paper or different whatever it is. So selecting this blue information button will give you a little bit more information before you even finish the wizard, if you're wondering. Now, as you can see, I get down to my offset press that I have. It is much more cost prohibitive than the digital, but again, if I select the blue information button, it still gives me my make ready labor hours and the cost, plate labor, all these different things affiliated with an offset press are also shown in Odyssey with that blue information button. Again, this is not something that I usually think of or I need to use, but maybe you're wanting to know before you finish, oh, I don't want to have to go through all this and go see what's going on with the press. You could just quick select that blue information button and get some information. Maybe that'll be enough for you to determine if you need to adjust anything at the press level before you continue with more test estimating or whatever the case may be. So just something to keep in mind. In the component wizard at step 4, there is a little information for you to view the specs about the press with all the different selections you made. You told it was a quantity of 500. I told Odyssey it was 4/4, so full color over full color. Odyssey's taking all those variables and calculating what you see right here on the screen. So again, maybe just a little time saver so you're not having to go to the next step and kind of go through and actually view, oh, I got to select something. So you don't have to actually go through and actually see it at this location. You can view it prior at step 4 of the wizard. All right. We're gonna move on. I'm gonna cancel this estimate, not something I need to save right now. We're gonna move on to the order forms or the order forms section of Odyssey. So on my Odyssey dashboard, this is an icon that looks like a little radio button or dot with the 3 lines, order forms. I'm just gonna select that icon to go right into my order forms section. And this is simply how to copy an order form. So right now, I don't see a copy button, I see an edit button. However, if you would like to copy an order form, if you hover over the actual order form, so this top blue line is the category called Advertising Specialties. I have one order form affiliated with that category called Advertising Specialties. When you hover over the actual order form, on the far right, there's a copy button that's pretty light colored, and there's also a delete button. Obviously, delete means you don't want anymore, you could delete it. The copy button, if you select that button, it simply copies that order form exactly how it was, and it just puts the name copy at the end. And I will leave it there for you to see, just copy. But if I go into the form designer, all the questions and answers that were on that original form that I copied from are on this copied form. So I would say it's a good time saver if you need to edit a post order form, a book order form. Maybe you need to tweak a couple things, but you don't want to have to start scratch from new. Copying an order form is a pretty good time saver. So if I go back to the order forms, there is the original. Here's the one that I copied. It has a green chain link, meaning it copied all the attributes and the form specifics from the other order form. It's still all linked to Odyssey the same as the original one. Now, obviously, if I need to make changes, I would have went in here and made the tweaks that I needed. But you won't be able, you don't see the copy or delete till you just hover over that order form. And on the far right, there's that little copy or the delete. If I go to delete the one I copied, I get a prompt, are you sure you want to delete this order form? So that's nice. Odyssey doesn't automatically delete something. It usually has a pop-up to allow you to decide, do I truly want to delete or do whatever? Yes, I do want to delete this form. I don't need the copy. Back under advertising specialties, now my copied order form has been deleted. So any order form, you could simply select copy and make adjustments or whatever it is you needed. And again, that's not seen until you hover over the actual order form. So speaking of tags and of order forms, I wanted to go over a common order form that is a pretty popular product, how to go and just kind of get that a quick setup. And what I'm referring to is business cards. What I did prior to this webinar is I simply copied the business card order form that I had here. I deleted out a couple things, and I made this card or this order form clean in the way that you would see it if we were to turn on Odyssey for you, or if you haven't ever gone into to adjust an order form. It's kind of in its natural state, would you say? So I just renamed it Business Cards Odyssey Webinar Example. So if I click this and go into this order form, the product information is basically the same as the original one I copied from, but I just added on Odyssey Webinar Example. You can always add a different image. If you had a sample PDF or a production PDF, you can also add those in Odyssey as well for your customers. I did not do that for this one, but you can do that at any time for any of your order forms. The form designer, any order form that you have not really set up or done anything with is going to say action required, click to open, and it has a red exclamation point. So when I open the general specifications at the top, almost always the ink colors, the paper, and the size general specifications are not set up or linked to anything in Odyssey. So they have these red exclamation points. So this business card is probably how most of you will see it if you were trying to set it up. There's missing information down here. You probably want to ask your print buyers what colors, what paper do you want to use, what size do you want to choose in case there's more than one size for your business card. So I'm going to quick go through. on how to set up a business card. Again, that's pretty common, pretty popular product I've seen on most printers' websites. And maybe this will help you get going on some other order forms, but I thought I would quick do this one. So let's start with ink colors. There's a couple ways that we can go with the ink colors. We can be very specific and say if it's one-sided, it's CMYK and or black. If it's two-sided, we could also set our CMYK and black for both sides and set it. If you set it, then Odyssey will eliminate that question mark, or I'm sorry, that red exclamation point, and you're set up for your ink colors. However, you might want to have what's known as a color picker question, where you want to have more options for your print buyers for ink colors. We can also do that. So it might be full color front, black on the back as an example, or full color over black over full color, whatever the case might be. There's a couple more options with the color picker option, and I will show you that as well. So I'm gonna go back to one-sided here. I'm gonna turn that off. And I'm going to refresh the page, which should show me that red exclamation point. And then I'm just gonna bring in a color picker question. Go back to one here. All right, so what I'm gonna do is bring in a color picker question and set it down below the questions. It's basically a question that you need to ask your print buyers. Color picker question, I'm gonna go right above here. I'm gonna call it color choices. And it's color type. I'm sorry, the question type is a color picker. You know, is this going to be a single print piece? In this case for business card, yes. Is it gonna be one-sided or both sides? I'm gonna say it's both sides. And your customers can choose different ink colors for each side of the paper. You can indicate front and back, what are the different color options, sequences, or selections that you want to allow. I'm going to select add question. If I plus the color choices question, this is where I was saying there's all these other different combinations that could be on your business cards. Full color over full color over two color, full color over one color, full color on the front, one, black on the back. If you want to have all these selections, then you certainly may. If you didn't offer some of these, you would just go through and delete some of these options that you may not offer with your business cards. This just gives you a little bit more availability of ink compared to up here. And right away, as you can see, Odyssey knew that the ink colors up here would be based on the color choices down here that I just added, this color choices color picker question. Color picker meaning I dragged over this form element under the questions and answers. Odyssey knew as soon as I did that, this ink colors is referencing this color choices question, and there's no more red exclamation. Odyssey's happy with this. I'm going to leave this color choice question here with all these answers, but just letting you know, if you don't offer some of these, you could certainly delete them. Okay, the next thing, paper. So we need to tell Odyssey, well, what paper is this going to be? You can either set a specific sheet that will always be used when this order form is, when the business cards are being added. So if you know that there's always going to be white 100-pound gloss cover for this order form, you can set a specific paper up here and set it. But maybe you want to give your print buyers choices of the different types of paper for your business card order form. That is where tagging is going to come into effect here. So I'm going to set these all back to what they were, which is all that. So for Odyssey to allow for multiple choices for paper, I'm going to add what's called a radio button, and that's shown right here. I'm going to drag it under my color choices, and I'm going to name this question paper choices. The question type here is radio button. The answers map to, this is where I'm going to map to the tag business card. And if I remember correctly, I had 2 or 3, I can't remember. So if I select the business card tag and I select add, I have 3 papers that I tagged as business card that come into play. If I didn't have the tag business card on those resources, all my papers would have came in. That provides more work because if you have 100 papers, you'd have to go in and basically turn off the answers or turn off the papers that would be applicable to this order form. Since I use the tag business card, I know I only have 3 papers that are used for this order form. It kind of cuts down on the time needed. And I'm going to just leave them all as applicable, include this answer, and add question. Therefore, I now have a paper choices question with 3 answers for my print buyers to choose from. So it just eliminates me having to delete the ones that I don't want if I didn't use the tag business card. Something else that I want to add would be turnaround times. This would be, I can't recall off the top of my head if this is something that's added when we turn on Odyssey for you or not. I'm going to delete it and I'm going to act like it's not there. We do have right here a turnaround. It's called a form element. You could use what's also known as a global element. I do not have, let's see if I have turnaround time set up. I was going to talk about global questions in this webinar, but I didn't feel I'd have enough time. And so I'm not going to go through with that today, but I am going to add around turnaround times question to this order form, meaning how quickly does your customer need this completed? It's set up right now as a global question, which means it's a dark blue. And so this can be applied to any order form. You don't have to set it up as a brand new question. I'm going to say, yes, this is required. That's what these little stars mean. And I'm going to leave Economy Express, Rush, and Other just as it is. Job name, I believe, is already there when we turn on Odyssey for you. This is telling your customer, you need to give this job, this order, a name. If they have additional comments that they need to enter, this is what's known as a multi-text input. That's probably there already for you. And if not, there's a location here on the right that you can add a multi-text input and call it, comments or wherever you want. Files, if they need to include a file with this business card order form, this question is here as well. So what we're going to do is quick view the order form. It should have all the questions that I just added. Here's the quantity. Here's all those color choices I was telling you about. Here's your paper choices, turnaround times, job name, comments, and files, etc. So we're going to go back here. And we're going to turn on Odyssey pricing. Oh, size. That needs to be, I did overlook that, size. That's the first thing that I was going to mention. So size has still not been done yet. We need to tell Odyssey what sizes are available for this business card. That is what's known as a dimensions question. I'm going to actually put that up at the very top above color choices, and I'm going to call it sizes. That's what I'm going to name this question. Include custom size or dimension fields. That is just letting your customers know, do you want to give them the ability to type in a custom size? I'll say that yes. Predefined sizes. This is telling Odyssey that you already have predefined sizes that you want them to select from. So I'm going to go to add new answer. I'm going to start typing in these, and the first one I'm going to have that common 3.5 by 2 inches and select save. I'm going to add a new answer, maybe 1.75 by 3.5 is another one. I'm going to select save. I will refresh and these will show up, but initially for some reason you're not seeing the dimensions, but they will. I'm just going to add in 3 sizes. I'm going to select save. I'm going to add the question. So I have a sizes question. Here are all the answers I just typed in. And under the size general specs, as you can see, that red exclamation point is gone. This Odyssey new is based on sizes down here. So we have fulfilled what we need for the order form for business cards, as long as this is what you need your print buyers to choose from and select to get the order form into your print shop. I'm going to quick refresh this business card order form and the sizes question. There it shows up right here. Quantity, size, color choices, paper choices, aqueous coating, turnaround times, job name, comments, and files. What I'm going to do, use Odyssey to price this form, is now I had turned that on. I'm going to go to product information. I'm going to say this is published on my website now. So you could still, mess around with Odyssey and not have it published, just to make sure the pricing and things are correct. And then when you're ready to publish it, you can publish it. I'm going to go back to my form designer. Yep, all the red triangle or explanation points are gone. Aqueous coating. If you don't have aqueous coating, you could simply delete that and that would be removed from your order form. I'm going to leave that on. I'm going to quick refresh and I'll just make sure Odyssey's pricing and we'll go through the next thing. I'm going to simply choose this first size. We're going to say it's full color. Nothing is on the back. And I'll just choose this 100-pound gloss cover white paper. No aqueous coating. The turnaround times I'm going to leave it economy. As you can see, Odyssey is calculating a price of $41.29. So I know that Odyssey's pricing it. Whether it's correct or not, that would be up to your resources and if you feel this is coming in line with what you feel is correct. But I know that Odyssey's pricing it because a price was generated. That's just a quick overview of how to set up a business card order form. Two other items that I wanted to quick go over. This is found in the accounting section of Odyssey. So if I select the accounting icon of Odyssey, and if I go under the invoicing tab on the left, there is what's called a customize invoice button here at the top. So if I select the customize invoice button, there's a lot of other areas here in this pop-up where you can customize. You know, there's different dates that you can show if you'd like. Do you want to show who the sales rep is? What I want to mention is there's a special make checks payable to section that if you want to define who to make the check payable to, you can define that. Right now it says make checks payable to, and I put my print shop name, Tanks Print Shop. You would save that, you would save your changes, and when you go to create an invoice, or maybe you want to reprint an invoice that you have not yet posted, when you generate the invoice, the make checks payable to, here is where your whatever you put will show up here at the top. So you can customize this, you know, if you want to put an address, you know, whatever it is, an address, a name, you can customize your make checks payable to for your invoicing. And again, that is found under the invoicing tab, under customize invoice. And there's a lot of other things. If you haven't gone in here to look closely, you might want to just make sure if there's things that you want to show or not show on your invoice. So the customize invoice button will be pretty handy if you want to, you know, go through that and customize it. One last thing is actually in the invoicing tab. And I'm actually going to go to the dashboard and start over. But when you go into accounting, which is we want to go into invoicing, I believe Odyssey defaults to the ready to invoice. I want to focus on the invoices ready to post. So you may or may not have more invoices than I do, and that's fine. Let's say you want to post invoices here. The way Odyssey is set up is you need to make sure that all the invoices that show up in this invoices ready to post section have at least been generated once or reprinted, whatever term you want to use. The way you can tell if an invoice has already been generated or printed, there's a little arrow next to the printer icon under the Actions tab. That means the invoice at some point in the future has already been generated or reprinted. So here's an arrow, an arrow, an arrow. This one right here, as you can see, says print this invoice when I hover over it. That's just Odyssey telling you I have not been printed yet. So in order to post invoices, every invoice on this page has to have at least been printed or generated once. So what I'm going to do is print this invoice. As soon as I do, and we go back to the screen, there's going to be a post selected button that shows up, and then you can post all of your invoices or some of them. So I'm going to select print this invoice. Odyssey takes a couple seconds. It opens up a new tab, at least on mine, and it prints this invoice. I'm going to go back to Odyssey. Now the post selected button is shown. And as you can see, all of my invoices now have that little arrow indicating all the invoices on this page have been printed or generated. You can now go through and post all of them by selecting this little square here, or if there's only certain ones that you want to post, you can go through and select those and post selected. The reason that's set up that way is to ensure that you have examined the invoices that you're posting, making sure they're correct or what have you before you post them. So we just want to make sure that all of them on this page have been generated at least once, meaning that you have taken a look at them. So I generated my invoice. The post selected button has showed up, and now you can go through and post the invoices that you would like to post. I know that was a lot to digest for this edition, and I don't typically want to go over the 30 minutes, but thank you for your time. Please feel free to check this episode out once it's posted on our YouTube site, and you may revisit that at your leisure. And with that said, thank you for joining us during this edition of This Week in Odyssey, and please stick around as we have a survey that we would appreciate your feedback. Thank you very much.
For those watching live, stick around for a 2-question survey. On behalf of the whole team at Marketing Ideas for Printers, thanks for joining us.